Kamala Harris decides to reveal herself, and she looks horrendous. Is she drunk? Kamala Harris looks rough in first video message to supporters since concession speech. Kamala Harris on Tuesday evening released a video message to supporters, and she looked rough. Kamala Harris sounded drunk in her first video message to supporters since her concession speech after losing the 2024 election to Donald J. Trump. Tampon Tim Walz and Kamala Harris appeared on a grassroots call together on Tuesday afternoon. Kamala Harris slurred her words as she rambled on and on about getting back to work.
I just have to remind you, don't you ever let anybody take your power from you. You have the same power that you did before November 5th. And you have the same purpose that you did. And you have the same ability to engage and inspire. So don't ever let anybody or any circumstance take your power from you.
Is it me, or does it look like Kamala Harris aged 10 years since November 5th? Yes, she sounds drunk. She looks drunk. She looks absolutely cooked. Donald Trump broke Kamala Harris. I mean, just compare her campaign photo to this recent video, and you could definitely tell she's cooked. And of course, you know this was going to get memed.
Ever let anybody take your power from you. You have the same power that you did before November 5th. And you have the same purpose that you did.
Good old Tampon Tim was on the call, and he's now admitting that he's afraid of Trump.
I know it's incredibly disappointing now, and look, candidly, it's a bit scary because there's a very different vision that's being put out there.
Oh yes, all deep state swamp creatures should be very afraid because justice is coming. Kamala's collapse is so bad that DNC staffers are facing absolute destruction. DNC staffers fired after election, reduced to begging for money with a GoFundMe account. As the Gateway Pundit recently reported, after the election was over, the DNC fired a large number of staffers with no advance warning and no severance pay of any kind. Their union was outraged. Now they have been reduced to begging people for donations through a GoFundMe account that was set up for them. Town Hall reports DNC staffers getting desperate after Kamala hung them out to dry. Kamala Harris blew through nearly $2 billion in campaign cash before losing to President-elect Donald Trump on November 5th, and now Democratic National Committee staffers have been hung out to dry. Oh, boo-hoo. A new GoFundMe page has been launched to help staffers in the aftermath of the election, which wasn't just a catastrophe for the campaign, but also the DNC. Last week, 2/3 of DNC staff was laid off with little notice and no severance. We are heartbroken to see our colleagues who dedicated countless hours to electing Democrats up and down the ballot depart under these circumstances. And we are furious with DNC leadership for failing to provide severance to those affected. As such, we are creating a relief fund which will directly aid staff members, including single parents and workers expecting children, impacted by the recent layoffs. The funds raised will be distributed equally to any laid-off member who opts in to receive funds. We hope these funds can soften the economic blow for those impacted. A statement on the page states, the DNC Staff Union X account reported 1 day's notice, no severance. The DNC fights for workers, just not their own. Wow, turns out that trusting the commies doesn't pay off, does it now? All of these people thought that they had it in the bag. They thought that they could steal it. They thought that they could install the diversity hire-in-chief, low IQ, Kamala Harris. In America, more than 77 million of us said, yeah, no thanks. We want Donald J. Trump. They rolled the dice and they lost. And now they're paying the price. And they thought that this was going to be an administration that was going to care for them and was going to be there for them and care about their personal lives and their future. Well, this is exactly what America was going to look like under a President Kamala Harris. Even her donors are screwed and pissed off. Kamala Harris mega donor says campaign not taking responsibility for misspending a fortune and losing. Lindy Lee was on the Kamala Harris Finance Committee. She not only donated large sums of her money to the campaign, she convinced others to do so, mostly based on the fact that the campaign kept telling her that they were going to win. This week, Lee participated in a call with Kamala Harris, campaign officials, and top donors. Lee was hoping that someone would address the fact that they misspent almost $2 billion, but according to her, no one is taking any responsibility. Shocker. Lee even claims that Kamala Harris spent part of the call talking about Thanksgiving recipes. Just yesterday, another major donor said that this lack of financial accountability makes Kamala Harris disqualified forever.
She actually held 2 calls, one for her top donors and one for grassroots. I was speaking and texting with fellow attendees of the call, and we were amazed by how self-congratulatory the tone was. I don't recall, the call was about 20, 30 minutes. I don't recall anyone taking responsibility for the fact that we spent about $2 billion across the super PAC and the campaign and came up so significantly short. We lost 7 swing states.
Self-congratulatory in what types of things were being said?
They praised Harris as a visionary leader. I believe at one moment during the call, she was talking about her Thanksgiving recipe. And I don't say this with any malice or anything. I'm just merely conveying what happened. I think I was stunned to hear that, given just the extent and brutality of the loss and the fact that DNC staffers, at least two thirds have been fired summarily. And a lot of them are at a loss as to what to do. I'm just frankly stunned that there was no sort of postmortem or an analysis of how we can do better, what sort of lessons were learned. It was really just patting each other on the back, congratulating each other on I'm not sure what, and saying we'll see you for Christmas.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of donors are not happy. A number of them are blaming people in Obama world. That's who they helicoptered in after Biden stepped down. A lot of consultants in Obama world came over and took over the campaign apparatus. The same people who were whispering and leaking to the press that Harris should be replaced at the top of the ticket when Biden was running. So you can imagine just the hypocrisy underlying a lot of it.
Well. It turns out that the Kamala psyop and the astroturfing did not work on the American people. Why did it not work? Why are they so disillusioned? Why are they so confused? Because they don't live in reality. No matter how much money you threw at this diversity hire that has already been destroying our country for the past 4 years, you could not convince people otherwise that it wasn't her fault. It is her fault. She is horrible. She is destructive. She's had our border open and it's getting people killed while simultaneously nuking our economy and leading us into World War III. America said, no thanks, no matter how much money you threw at it. Harris campaign advisor accidentally exposes how legacy media lied to the American people with junk polls. Recently, Harris campaign advisor David P. sat down with fellow Harris campaign operatives on Pod Save America to discuss what went wrong. Despite all the polls legacy media used to gaslight Americans, he admitted during the podcast that the campaign's internal polling never actually had Harris ahead of Trump.
But, we were behind. I mean, I think it surprised people because there was these public polls that came out in late September, early October, showing us with leads that we never saw.
Precisely. Part of the Kamala psyop were these mainstream media so-called polls that were meant to inform the voter. No, those are psyops that are meant to deceive the voter, and it backfired. Well, the liberal meltdown continues. Liberal women protest Trump's victory with a primal scream at Lake Michigan. And literally, they're screaming at Lake Michigan as if it's Trump. As Democrats try and find ways to cope with Donald Trump's stunning election victory, footage circulating across social media shows dozens of women, all of whom appear to be white, screaming at Lake Michigan to express their rage and frustration over the election results. Footage also shows the women running straight into the freezing lake, risking hypothermia. They hate Trump that much.
Oh my gosh.
The TDS has raised to new levels that we've never seen before. President Donald J. Trump and his historic victory winning the 2024 election, absolutely obliterating Kamala Harris, not only broke Kamala Harris, but all of her NPC commie followers. And it's absolutely glorious to watch in real time every single day. And we got another 4 years of Trump in office. My name is Drew Hernandez for the Gateway Pundit, and you have been on watch with Drew Hernandez. I'll see you guys on the next one.